Hey, everybody, here we are. We are live. Oh, there's my phone. Look at that. We are the Music Nerds Collaborative. And when it was pandemic season, we said, let's get on a Zoom and share our best albums of then 2020. And it went so swimmingly. We said, let's do it again next year. And here we are for the third annual Music Nerds Collaborative end of the year best of 2022 live stream. We lost a couple of our original members. We had a guy from Ireland, a preacher out of Ireland, Steve, and Becca, my former colleague from Tennessee Tech. She dropped out, but we've recruited, and this year we have our newest member, Gus Creeder. And so we've got two from Nashville, two from Cookville, and one from Charlotte and one from Birmingham. So we are a Southeast Music Nerds Collaborative, and each of us has 15 minutes to go through our top 10 of 2022. And you can do it in less than 15 if you want, but I'll start bringing out the gongs and all that at 15, and then at the end we'll just kind of wrap it up with some general chaos and chit chat. And if you're going through yours and you want to call on one of your other 5 panelists, you're allowed to do that, but it's really just all you for that. And I'll reduce the screens, so it'll just be you and our audience. And we've already got 3 people watching online. It says we're live streaming at Teacher on the Radio on YouTube and at my personal Facebook and the Teacher on the Radio Facebook. And even right now, while we're doing this, you can get on your phones and you can send the link or the reminder to any of your people on Facebook or on YouTube. So I'm Andrew Smith, Teacher on the Radio. I convened this madness, and my returning co-hosts are Amy Rock, Scott Greenberg, Scott Winchell, and Rick Quinn. And we welcome our newest member, Gus Creeder, to the Music Nerds Best of 2022 live stream. All right, let's do it. And we draw straws. And the first presenter is going to be Scott Greenberg out of Charlotte, North Carolina.
Andy, as always, it is a little slice of heaven to be here. My name is Scott Greenberg. I host the Debts No Honest Man Can Pay podcast. This is my top 10. There are 3 ties. Don't come at me. I got a damn good reason for each of them. As a matter of fact, the first tie is at number 10, Angel Olsen's Big Time, and the latest from Sharon Van Etten. We've been going about this all wrong. Why is this a tie? Because they are just so symbiotic. And it's no surprise that they were on tour earlier this year along with Julian Baker. I could put both of these on shuffle and it would sound delightful. I can hear the influences that they have on each other, and that is why they are tied for number 10. Number 9 is not a tie, but god damn it, it's Rhiannon and Hester's World. We just live in it. Wet Leg. I can't not love them. I can't wait to hear what they're going to do. If this album were just 10 recordings of Shays long, it would still be on the top 10. But there's so much awesomeness and brashness and hilarity and just world-class badassery that I can't not love Wet Leg. Number 8, you know how TV Guide has the best show you're not watching? Well, Corey Brannon is the best singer-songwriter you're not listening to. And if you are, good on you. Corey Brannon, I will come out and say it. This is my hot take. Corey Brannon is the American Richard Thompson. He's a world-class, badass singer-songwriter, and he's a guitarist who plays in the service of the song. I've seen him countless times. I've lost track of how many times I've seen him. And he was my first post-COVID rock show. So, plus, I got to interview him a couple of years ago, but every time he comes out with an album, it's just damn delightful. His latest is called When I Go, I Ghost, and it features folks like Brian Fallon from the Gaslight Anthem and some loser by the name of Jason Isbell, but it's a great album. Corey Brannon. Okay, everything on this list is here because it sparks joy. And this next album sparks so much goddamn joy, it threatens to burn the house down. Nikki Lane, Denim and Diamonds, it's wall-to-wall bangers. It hits the sweet spot between alt country and power pop. These are songs that just winnow themselves in my head and take residency rent-free. It was produced by Josh Homme, and I know that he's kind of a problematic dude, but from a musical standpoint, he has always been just a rock solid player, and his presence and his production on this just do nothing but elevate Nikki Lane's Denim and Diamonds. The second tie on the list, number 6. Why they are tied? Because these are two bands that I believe can do no wrong. The first, I don't know about you, but I am a sucker for Australian and New Zealand guitar-based jangle pop bands. And Rolling Blackout's Coastal Fever, it does not get much better than them. Endless Rooms is their third full length, and I don't think they're capable of making a bad album, as is Spoon. Lucifer on the Sofa, it's all killer, no filler. I cannot quite put my finger on what makes Spoon so great. I just know that everything I've heard I love, and I've had the pleasure of seeing them 2 times, and it's just not enough. The final tie. I was hoping I was going to be able to get through this here without a tie, but I got 3. So 3 ties, 3 suits, 3 vests. I don't know. I'm going to shut up with the bad jokes. What do the people at number 5 have in common? These are side hustles. One of them, their day job is in alt country, and the other one started off as an indie rocker who kind of gravitated towards the alt country. First, Sarah Shook of Sarah Shook and the Disarmers. She set up with a recorder in her house during the pandemic and went full on indie. The band is called Mightmare. The album is called Cruel Liars, and I cannot wait until she brings some of this awesome indie rock DNA back to the Disarmers. That is tied with Plains. Plains is Katie Crutchfield, aka Waxahachie, and singer-songwriter Jess Williamson. I wasn't really expecting much from either one of these, and they just delighted me so goddamn much. And I love when my expectations are low and my expectations are exceeded. Plains plays like it's a bonus Waxahachie album, and that to me is a gift. I thought, okay, let's see what they're going to do, but no. It plays like a bonus Waxahachie record. It's like St. Cloud Part 2, and I ain't angry about that. Number 4, if you know anything about me, you know I loves me some Hammond B3 organ. And over the past couple of years, my consistent musical happy place is on planet DLO3, Delvon Lamar Organ Trio. Jimmy James is the most underrated guitar hero on the face of the earth. Delvon Lamar is a monster on the Hammond B3 organ. They've had more drummers than Spinal Tap. The album Cold as Weiss was named after drummer number 4, who's no longer in the band. I don't know what you can read into that, but this is just perfect for when you just need something funky and groovy and badass. Number 3. Did I skip something? Oh, yeah. I don't have my number 3 here. I forgot to put it in the pile. But number 3 is, did I have it up? Oh, there we go. Hold on. Titus Andronicus, The Will to Live. Their 2015 album, A Most Lamentable Tragedy, was my favorite of that year. This is just epic good versus evil anthems, and it's the soundtrack to the first month of the sophomore year in high school I wish I had. This is album-oriented rock for an alternate universe where things are not quite as they seem. And I had the pleasure of seeing these guys at a glorified street fair in Columbia at the beginning of October, and Patrick Stickles came over and chatted up my friends and I and noted that I was wearing a rare Titus 2016 tour shirt and called me out from the stage about it. Okay. The Mountain Goats, Bleed Out. Before this album, I liked the Mountain Goats just fine. Now I am a fan for life. John Darnielle, how did he spend his pandemic vacation? He binged action movies and he wrote songs about him, but it's John Darnielle. So the songs have depth and width and breadth, and just every song on here is great. Number one. Is it any surprise? Anybody want to put any bets on this? Yeah, it's Bruce, and I'm justified. It's 15 soul classics as only the boss can do them. 6 of them from my hometown of Motown. And I knew that this was the album of the year when, after a very stressful weekend wherein my mom tripped and broke her nose, and my number one job was being the rock, not Dwayne Johnson, but an emotional rock for my mom. We were finally en route from the hospital to take her to my sister's to convalesce, and I needed this. And my mom loves soul music, and I put on Only the Strong Survive on the drive from the hospital to my sister's house. And it was just this moment, this perfect moment, my mom and I enjoying quality soul music by my favorite singer-songwriter of all time. And it just brought me so much unbridled joy. So that's my top 10. Andy?
Scott! Oh my gosh. And he's modeled efficiency with his time. I think he clocked in under the allotted time, and we are going to go from
I could tell some jokes.
We'll have time for the general chaos at the end. We'll go from Charlotte, North Carolina. We'll go up I-26, hop on I-40, and go due west for Nashville, Tennessee. And Scott does That's No Honest Man Can Pay. He's a radio DJ. In his new role as a pop critic at popmatters.com. My sib from another crib. Let's welcome to the live stream, Rick Quinn.
Thank you, Andrew. And wow, what a list to follow up. Scott, that number one was a shocker. I did not see Bruce Springsteen coming, but a great album nonetheless. As I get into my top 10, I'll give a slight caveat. I've got 10 albums that I'm going to go through, and they are the same list that I turned in early November for our website's countdown for the year end. So there's one album that I've heard since I turned that list in that would be included in my top 10 list, but I know for sure that that's on my sib Andrew's list. So I'm just going to leave my comments on that to the general chaos. So I don't have all the visual aids that my colleague in Charlotte did, but I will do my best as we go along. I'm going to try something with Andrew's technology here to see if I can get into number. Let's see here. Now, I tell you what, I'm not going to worry about that at all. What I'm going to do is just go straight into number 10. It is Layla McCall's Breaking the Thermometer. This is one of the most interesting and complex albums I've listened to this year. Layla McCall, if you're not familiar with her, is one of a handful of tremendous roots musicians. She is one of the folk supergroup Our Native Daughters with Rhiannon Giddens, Amethyst Kia, and Allison Russell. I was drawing a blank there for a second. This album is really a look at how it was conceived out of something. Duke University had the archives of Radio Haiti, the first radio station that was broadcast in Haiti in the native tongue Creole. It's a revolutionary, a side of revolutionary resistance to colonialism, and through traditional Creole music, clips from this radio station, from interviews or conversations with her own mother. She weaves a narrative of identity, of joy, of resistance to oppression that's just stunning. It's not the type of album that you can put into your cassette deck if you have those and be the background music for the morning commute. You got to sit and listen with this. But if you do, it's fantastic. So that's number 10. Number 9 is the Birmingham band St. Paul and the Broken Bones, The Alien Coast. It is a wildly inventive album, a departure. If you become a fan of St. Paul and the Broken Bones because of the way that they do soul and the horn section, you're going to be thrown off a little bit by this album. They described it, and I quote, as a convergence of soul and psychedelia, stoner metal, and funk. It's bold, it's risky, it deals with apocalyptic themes of it's kind of a human connection and disconnection. It's just it is a wild, trippy listen, but a profoundly human album. Great album. That's number 9. And number 8, it's me. Hi. It's Taylor Swift, Midnights. The commercially the biggest album of the year by one of the biggest pop stars currently working. Midnights is a concept album that Taylor Swift said had to do with the intrusive thoughts that you have when you're alone at night and you can't sleep. It is it's just a masterclass in pop craft. Her songwriting is tremendous. The earworm of Antihero is such a great song, and the way in which she does that, it's me, hi, I'm the problem, it's me, in the middle, and divide and sort of breaks up the phonetic pattern in her breathing, and almost an exasperated tone. It's just a brilliant little move. It's a great album. So it's just a testament that sometimes what's wildly popular is also really good. Number 7 is the third album from the Dublin post-punk band Fontaines DC, Skinty Fia. Skinty Fia is just sort of a drop guitar-driven post-punk album that deals with displacement. It's all about the band's Irish roots and living basically as strangers in a strange land. They're now set up residents in London. So there's this real sense of how do you claim one's identity in a new place. It's got sort of a darker Joy Division type feel to it. It really is a real interesting testament to a musical testament to sort of life in a post-Brexit world and understanding one's identity in the middle of this. This is an exciting band, and I'm really interested to see what the future holds for them. Number 6 is here's my first overlap with one of my peers. Wet Legs, self-titled album is just plain infectious power pop fun. It is a straight ahead banger. As Scott was saying about Spoon, this one also is all killer, no filler. Their music, their hooks are thrown together with a sardonic wit and reflection on a disillusion with the party life at the end of one's 20s. It's just a fantastic album, a lot of fun, and I've had it on repeat quite a bit. So number 5, here's where I do have a few visual aids. Number 5 is White Jesus, Black Problems by Fantastic Negrito. Uh, I'm going to tip my hat to the other Scott Winchell, turned me onto this album and kept insisting, you got to listen to this. You got to listen to this. And he was absolutely right. It is, it's sparked by the artist's discovery that his heritage goes back to the common law marriage of a white indentured Scottish servant and a black enslaved man, and it's a commentary on the perdurance of racism in our times, the problems of white supremacy, all wrapped up in this funk, blues, rock, psychedelic groove that has bits of Sly and the Family Stone, James Brown, the Beatles, sound effects like Pink Floyd. It's just a fascinating, rich album. And that one is number 5. Number 4 is Kentucky's own Tyler Childers, Can I Take My Hounds to Heaven? This is one of the more interesting, compelling albums that I've heard this year. It's 8 songs done 3 different times. Tyler's has a, let's see, I want to make sure I get this right. A Hallelujah version, a Jubilee version, and a Joyful Noise version. It steps deep into the waters of Appalachian gospel as a means to speak to redemption, struggles, sobriety, and learning to live deeply in this material world the gifts of the material world that we have before us. The third disc is a little trippy. It's got hip hop beats, samples from all the way from the Andy Griffith Show to Appalachian Preachers to Thomas Merton to Jerry Clower. It's just an interesting and brilliant album. All right, coming down to the final stretch. Number 3 is Amanda Shire's "Take It Like a Man." This is one of the most interesting and powerful albums I think that's come out of Nashville this year. It's vulnerable. It's Amanda Shire's coming deep into her, fully into her own voice, both physically, her singing voice, and her writing voice. She talks about struggles in a relationship. It's just a wonderfully powerful album. She embraces the cycles of ache and joy. It's one of the better Americana / country albums I have heard this year. All right, so that's 3. I'm going to go straight to number 1 because I said I'd keep it at 10. Number 1 is actually 2 albums, which I'm going to talk about together. It's Jack White's 2 offerings this year, Fear of the Dawn and Entering Heaven Alive. These 2 are testaments to the multitudes that Jack White contains within him. Fear of the Dawn grabs you by the lapels with the first, fuzzy guitar riffs and does not let you go. It's a straight ahead rocker. It has the skittishness. It's all about the anxiety of literally and figuratively the fear of the dawn, and it's just it is a sort of a testimony to Jack White's status as a rock god. Entering Heaven Alive is a wild pastiche of the American, not only the American song, but a series of different genres, from bluegrass to ragtime to jazz to uh, you, things that make you think of Marty Robbins' gunfighter ballads. It just shows how deep Jack White's knowledge and adeptness is. It's a fascinating album. The two albums end with the same song in different versions, so I think they're kind of a yin yang loop, and so it's why I included them together as one entry. And it's they together are my number one album of the year, and that concludes my list.
Y'all are being way too good about staying right on time. Matter of fact, Scott G did his in about 10 minutes, and Rick was just right on point with his 15. I'm Andrew William Smith, Sunfrog, teacher on the radio, the convener of this chaos, and we drew straws for the order, and I get to go next. So I'm going to remove Rick's image there so he can catch his breath, and I'm going to try to do the old screen share thing that I was bragging to them about only at the last minute. I should have told them in advance. So next year, but way props to the two Scotts and Rick having physical CDs and physical albums. I'm pretty sure Gus might have some physical CDs and albums he might be able to show us. I'm a cheapskate, and I paid the subscription. So my fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a penny goes to them. But I do buy their concert tickets, and I do buy the T-shirts. As a matter of fact, I've got a lot of T-shirts right now. I got way more T-shirts than I care to admit. So let's see. Let's get right into it. Just a little bit of overlap here. I'm impressed with the amount of overlap that we've already had. And I want to say that since Monday, I've been going and reading all the lists that other people have on like reputable websites like Ann Powers from NPR and, Pitch a Fork Up My Butt and all those other really reputable Rolling Bones and, Spin Me Round Like a Record and all these great other websites and just inhaling The Guardian from England. I've just been inhaling all the official top 20s, top 100s. And I've just been listening nonstop to all the records that did not make my list from the professional music critics. And I have been listening, interestingly enough, to hard rock, punk rock, and hip hop primarily for the last 3 days. But the rest of the year, I listened to pretty much dad rock, old folky folk music, Americana, jam band, and this kind of thing, stuff that old people in their 50s listen to. And I also like Scott G and a little bit like Rick Quinn. I think there's certain artists, if they release an album, it just automatically gets towards the top. That's the way I feel about Amy Ray. Rick and I sometimes in our more tender private moments admit that we like a lot of the same music that lesbians like. And I don't know why that is. And that's not a slag towards him or me or to all of my Birkenstock, wearing women's music festival attending friends who are women loving women. But I love me some Indigo Girls. I grew up on the Indigo Girls. I mean, I might be completely obsessed with the Indigo Girls, but Closer to Fine, Kid Fears. But what was really rocking my world, it was Amy Ray's voice, not so much Emily's voice. And when she went solo, and started putting out solo albums, the last two that she's put out have been major records for me. So even though I have a top 100 that you guys can go look at, we can't look at it tonight because that would be more than 15 minutes. So Teacher on the Radio's top 10 is Amy Ray. This album, I Am the Moon by the Tedeschi Trucks Band, was released in 4 EPs. It now clocks in at over 2 hours. They have a movie to go with it. The Tedeschi Trucks Band is Susan Tedeschi and Derek Trucks, and they are really a kind of like a jam band in the Allman Brothers tradition, so a Southern jam band. And they put these out to deal with all the different phases of the moon. And so then these 4 EPs form this 2-hour symphony. And that's not even the right word. I don't know what it is. It's epic. It's a triple album. And if you have noticed, a lot of people since the pandemic are putting out two albums a year. They're putting out double albums. They're putting out albums with 30 30 or more songs, albums that, and Spotify, I said a bad word, but they list the minutes, and the records are coming in at over an hour. Occasionally you'll find a good 35-minute album, an album that could fit on one TDK 45-minute cassette. Remember, Scott, when you and Joe and I used to trade tapes in high school, one album would fit on one side of one TDK 90 minutes. A lot of these now are coming out over an hour long. So this is a 2-hour thing. I think, Rick, to your credit, Jack could have done that. His could have just been an album in 2 parts. So I recognize that in your tie for first place. When I first heard Alex Mox out of Austin, Texas, and the Black Angels, when they first came out, he sounded like Jim Morrison, and he was singing anti-war songs about the Vietnam War and applying them to the Iraq War when they first broke out in 2007 and 2008. And now, as we're so much into our genres, the Black Angels have been kind of a champion of Texas psychedelia, bringing up memories of the 13th Floor Elevators, maybe even ZZ Top. And they're such an Austin band. They represent the psychedelic. And Scott Winchell, I'm sorry I didn't call you. I breezed through your town in a whirlwind and went to Saturn one Sunday night of several weeks ago and caught the Black Angels live in a small club. And oh my gosh, talk about face melting. And I know that has become a cliche now, but these people destroyed my brain cells and I was sober. It was such an unbelievable live show. The Black Angels, a new album, the track that I'm really into is called Empire's Falling. But what is the name of the album? The name of the album is Wilderness of Mirrors by the Black Angels. Wilderness of Mirrors. Okay, clocking in at number 7, the Band of Horses. When I discovered these guys around their second album and then went back and learned every song on their first album, they were the soundtrack to the last couple of years of my drinking career. And they were, I just moved up to Cookeville. I had gotten a little apartment and I had a little MP3 player, and I only had a couple of albums on the MP3 player. But that second album with Is There a Ghost? And just a couple of the others. Well, actually, the whole second, Everything All the Time, I believe was the name of the second album. And they were coming after, My Morning Jacket as one of these they're out of South Carolina. The Jacket are out of Kentucky. A lot of falsetto, a lot of reverb, kind of, everything from the Byrds to REM. But they were kind of Southern American, kind of reverb heavy jangle rock, sort of jangle adjacent, I guess. Apparently there's Scott Greenberg, there's an official jangle revival going on now, which really is very precise in a more Let's Active kind of way, the way they're interpreting jangle pop. But Ben Bridwell, the foreperson of the Band of Horses, was going through a hard place. I think maybe he got divorced. Don't quote me on that, but there's a lot of emotional fallout on this album, a very emotional album. I listened to one interview with him. And this, to me, is all the Band of Horses albums. They have that real distinctive sound, so they all kind of sound the same. But in terms of like just the resonance of this, it gripped me more than some of their albums in the aughts. And so I'm really grateful for Band of Horses. I had plans to see them at Moon River. Day 2 of Moon River in Chattanooga got canceled due to rain, and we missed them. Okay, this one is weird, and this is coming out of nowhere. And this... I'm building my list, and it's June, right? And by June, Scott Greenberg probably has 300 albums on his potential list by then. And I was like, I just don't have enough albums yet. And so I just got on the Google and I typed in best folk albums, and I was almost exclusively listening to acoustic driven music at this point. So I type in, best folk albums of 2022, and this album comes up. And so I went to listen to it. Don't hate on me, but this guy used to be in Pentatonics, and Avi Kaplan, he really just brought it all on this particular album, Floating on a Dream. And what it really reminds me of is like Neil Diamond and all kinds of other sort of 70s, like large folk music for a large venue. This guy made this album number 5 in a cabin in North Carolina. This is the album's called Dust. It's called the Dead Tongues, and the whole album has that kind of just really kind of rural psychedelic feeling that I definitely am addicted to. A lot of the albums in this top 20 or so fit that bill. Definitely adjacent to Band of Horses just mentioned and My Morning Jacket. They have like a maybe 7 or 9 minute song that opens the album that just is completely infectious and completely wrecks me. But it's front to back. I can listen to this album front to back. And a lot of the albums in this top 10 are more rock than folk. So like the Band of Horses, this one, the Tedeschi Band, but all of these, the Black Angels, but all of them have that kind of aftertaste that a good psychedelic, you kind of get that sonic hangover after listening to it. And it also, you want to come back. It's kind of a habit for me. You want to come back for more. These guys, Lee Baines and the Glory Fires, Old Time Folks, they sound to me like what I think Drive-By Truckers might have sounded like if I had heard them when they were just a breakout band. And I only got to Drive-By Truckers through my Jason Isbell fandom. And so I'm not a first generation Drive-By Truckers fan. I come late to Drive-By Truckers. And so this is really, I think, the kind of gritty political Southern rock. So it's got like a punk rock attitude, both in terms of its DIY-ness and in terms of its politicalness. But it's got that kind of very just densely atmospheric sound that all of these other bands on here are and just a kind of a fire to it. But this guy's lyrics are insane. He's got a whole song about everything that's wrong with Atlanta. He's got like a 7 or 8 minute song called God is a Working Man. He's got a song called The Ode to the 40-Hour Week, and the 40-Hour Week is no more. And the album, and you guys know, like, it was really popular back in the day. It still is on hip hop albums to sample like vocals of like spoken word and blend them into rock songs. I don't hear enough sampling of spoken word in rock songs anymore. I want more bands to do that. They opened the album with a sample of Sister Angela Davis, the great African-American leader. And I believe she gave a very important speech in Birmingham a couple of years ago. I'm hoping that sample is from her Birmingham speech. I don't know that for a fact, but I would like that were that to be true. No surprise here. I am gaga over Florence and the Machine. And her album that came out in the spring, Dance Fever, has a song about a dancing disease that people would get. And most of the songs are these like internal monologue prayers that she's having with husbands and gods and her audience and society, and how it stigmatizes women and how it stigmatizes the neurodivergent. They're almost like these kind of like dialogue prayers. Florence is neurodivergent. She also got sober several years ago and just really kind of wrestles with identity. And then as a performer, she's this total maniac pixie diva running laps around the Ascend Amphitheater. And all of her fans get dressed up for her shows like it was a freaking, Grateful Dead, not Grateful Dead. I don't know. It's like a rave. I don't know what it's everybody there was like wearing costumes, Elvis costumes, Jesus costumes. I don't know. I'm just absolutely in love with Florence Welch. And this should have been my number one album. Except I said I'm really, really into folk. I'm really, really into alternative country. I'm really into y'all alternative. And Willie Carlisle's an English major and a folklore expert. And he has this unbelievable voice. And his album, Peculiar Missouri, is so freaking good. And also, he's somebody that I just discovered, like, it feels like yesterday, and who has made such a huge difference in my life in the last year and a half, and who I've met a couple of times and just like talked to like a normal person. I last talked to him at the Americana Fest, went to see him in Charlotte, Scott. I think we had dinner before that show, and I just, hung out with him after that show when he was touring behind his album, whatever the album was before Peculiar Missouri. It dropped over the summer. It is a beautiful storytelling album. And as beautiful storytelling album goes, there's nothing like my number one album of the year by Adeem the Artist out of Knoxville, Tennessee. Their pronouns are they and them. And White Trash Revelry, I've spent more time with this album than any other record this year, and it only came out last week. But they gave me a review copy at their show up in Newport, Kentucky back in November, which was just a private SoundCloud link. And I listened to that thing around the clock. And it's, you know, it's being poor, it's being Southern, it's being rural, and unapologetically pansexual and left wing. And their lyrics and their topics and their lyrics are just so unbelievable. My favorite song might be one of the political songs are all phenomenal. The song about going to hell is an earworm and a sing along. But my favorite song on the album might be Books and Records, which is a deep cut on side B, because they talk about being poor and having to go and sell all your books and records. I can't imagine what that would feel like to anybody on this call if you would have to sell all your books and records. And it's like about doing that just in order to pay your bills. It's an amazing album. My number one album. I kind of knew it was going to be my number one album just hearing them talk about it on social media as I anticipated its release day. And the cool thing is I'm not the only one who feels this way. This album is completely blown up, and lots of people are celebrating the new voice in the alternative or alt country brought by Knoxville, Tennessee's own Adeem, the artist. I went all through all of my 15 minutes and I'm out of breath. And so we're going to take the car down I-65 south to Birmingham, Alabama. You got 15 minutes starting now. Everybody, welcome to the live stream. Scott Winchell.
Hey, everybody. Man, how exciting. I mean, what great lists. I'm glad to see St. Paul and the Broken Bones in it, Plains, Midnights, Lee Baines. There's just so much. It makes me feel like I'm not insane. I've looked forward to this all year, but if you asked me in March, I don't know if I could have came up with a list. I not to use a catchphrase word of 2020, but I really think my entire musical life deconstructed in this year, and it was evident in a lot of ways. I could not find anything that resonated with me, and I really was vocal about some of the problems in the concert industry, and I acted it out. But it really, over the last year, has led me down several paths and shown me things out there that I've never listened to before. My top 10 this year, half of them I did not know a year ago. And it's all over the board. I know very little about some of these artists and the genre that they are in, but it has just really opened up a lot to me. And I heard a lot of albums out there and with great songs on them. But, you know, I wasn't getting past cut number 3 on a lot of them. And much like Nashville, and we're blessed with a great AAA radio station down here. And there were some great songs, but I could not get to the magic cut number 5 that actually qualified for a great album. So the criteria I went through with my list were a couple of things. One, I don't give a damn what anybody cares about what I listen to. It is, did I enjoy it? Did I listen to it? Did I spend time with it? Number 2, was it a something that I stuck with its release, whether it was released a month ago or at the beginning of the year. So here we go, and I'm just gonna go. And number 10, these could be mixed up anyway, but it is Mr. Harry Styles. And I don't care. But when this thing came out and it started percolating in our house with my wife, the craftsmanship, the song on it, the production, the environment, the vibe, just wonderful. There's a song on here called Grape Juice that just, as you can tell, 1, 2, 3, that's number 3. And the big hit, As It Was, is number 4. And, it's not in stone, but number 4 is kind of where record executives did and sometimes try to put the big hit. But that song right there just really won me over. And it's a great top to bottom album. So Harry Styles, Harry, I'll take that any day. Now, this one, I'm going to take you through my list, and it's going to be a little trip from heaven to hell. Some of this, it's all over the board, but I literally was debating today whether to keep this in my top 10 or not, and I cannot keep it out. I grew up listening to heavy metal. I lived it since I was a young teen in the late 70s, all the way through the 80s. I grew through hair metal, and a big problem with that genre is it's really frustrating to see a lot of these artists, whether they're in metal or rock or whatever, be shells of their former selves, not producing quality content, they're either shells of themselves or tribute bands. And it is really fun for me to see Stryper, the To Hell with the Devil guys, sharing the stage with some of the biggest names in metal right now, and produce probably the best album of their career. And I'm just going to put this in here. How can't you like big flame-throwing eye Jesus with his big angels flying around, and it's called The Final Battle? That's some nightmare fuel. And that's going to get you. But these guys are pretty much the same core that they've always been, and they added a permanent bassist named Perry Richardson. And this thing, top to bottom, are well crafted, well performed, well produced, well written lyrics. And as a band, they sing what they sing about, and they don't care, and they don't bug you about it. They are very vibrant and will talk with you and communicate with their fans, and they take a lot of shit. And I don't know another band that takes more shit than Stryper, and they stick up in it. And to give you an example, they were on stage this week and played a festival in Monterrey, Mexico, with King Diamond and Judas Priest and many, many others. But Stryper, that's my number 9. We saw it once, and this is pure joy. Delvin Lamar, organ trio, Cold as Ice. There's also another live album that came out on one of the record store days this year. This is just pure joy. And early in my career, back in the early 90s, I worked with a band that had traveled with a B3 and the Leslie cabinet. And I lived in Memphis at the time, and I was around a lot of that. And so this really just has stuck with me. And what a great artist, what a great band. It's just phenomenal. So I'm glad that popped up once before. And this one, Rick brought it up. White Jesus, Black Problems, fantastic Negrito, multiple Grammy winner. This is about his ancestry. And I read one thing about it, and it was talking about like 7th generation ancestors, and how they came together as a couple, and how if it could happen back then in the 1700s or whenever it was, how it surely can be okay and happen today. So there's also an accompanying film with this. I have not seen it. I can't wait to. And he's been touring around Europe showing the film. And so that's something to really check out if you haven't had a chance to do it. What am I? 10, 9, 8, 7. My next one, this is where I turn to jazz. Jazz was probably the most important music to me this year. It's new to me. It's phenomenal. It's challenging. It's uplifting. There's a lot going on there in different genres, and it's just fresh. And there's a 23-year-old Bronx vocalist named Samara Joy, who's come out and with a new record called Linger. She also has several Christmas singles that have come out recently, and this is up for a Grammy. It is just phenomenal. She is 23 again and sits solidly within the greats like Ella Fitzgerald, Etta James, and some of these great vocalists. It just melts, and it's curated well. It is produced well. It is performed with some of the top musicians. So that is next on my list. I do not have this record on vinyl. I have streamed it, and I cannot. I'm trying to get it. I don't want to spend the money because I missed its original release on vinyl. But Tears for Fears, The Tipping Point. This was the earliest of the year to come out. It came out right after the first of the year. Oh my gosh, Roland Orzabal, they're just great. And this is probably one of their top 2-3 offerings. I hate that I missed them on tour, but that album just top to bottom performed well, really true to the core of what we would expect from that group. And I did get to see them in Charlotte back in 2010, which is a long time ago, but I just was so blown away by them. And it really solidified back then what a great artist they are. And it was really great to see them have an album that stuck so well throughout the year. Next up, one of the artists, I didn't know him more than 5 months ago, has several albums. He is originally from Florida, but now resides in Harlem. And his name's Emmett Cohen. He's a jazz pianist, and he really became a little broader known during COVID, where he started bringing popular jazz musicians up to his apartment and playing and YouTubing him out, live streaming him. Still does it, but Uptown Orbit came out recently. It is just blowing me away. Every song on it. The first song's called Finger Buster, and it's like when you hear it, you understand. And it's like many of these, and it's good. We have a jazz radio station here, and I'm actually hearing this on it. And wonderful artist, surrounded by phenomenal musicians, and it's just nice to have something new. The other album I've had a little trouble buying on vinyl but I had a hard time putting this not at number one. And it's the Norwegian group a-ha, Take On Me from the MTV days. It's called True North. And it has an accompanying film to it as well. And the band, when they began creating this album, they really started with the idea, we want to create a Norwegian version of what Bruce Springsteen did with Western Stars. And that really resonated with me. And if I didn't see that in some clip, I wouldn't have even listened to this album. It's mind-blowing. They have a whole line of really great songs with craftsmanship. It's orchestrated. There is an orchestra throughout the entire album, and just song after song after song is just good. It's hooky. It sticks. So a-ha, True North. I encourage you to check that out. All right, we were in heaven earlier. We're going to hell, and I understand that. But back in the late 70s, mid 70s, early 80s, there were a few bands out there that really took hard rock and heavy metal to a melodic area with a lot of harmony and intricate playing. And they would speak about the inevitability of death and the many things that come along with that and the routes to it in a manner that was actually appealing, but way different from what we were being taught in church. And it wasn't that you listened to Blue Oyster Cult and heard Don't Fear the Reaper and said, I'm going to go commit suicide, but you had a lot of compassion for the people in the story that actually did jump out the window. And that's what caused a lot of the rebellion and rift in the early days of hard rock. It was theatric and it was good. Heavy metal and the old curmudgeon in me really has not liked a lot of the genres that have come out in the heavy metal. And I like production. I like theater. I like stories. I like playing, people who can play their instruments. And that's why the Swedish metal band Tobias Forge, his band Ghost, this is called Impera. It's widely popular. They've sold out pretty much everywhere they go throughout the world. It is their best work to date. I've had the privilege to see them several times. It is big theater. The first song of the album is a big produced song called Kaiserian, and it's about Hippotia, the ancient Egyptian martyr. It's a fun story, but they have a song that's not far off from the themes of Don't Fear the Reaper. They have a Jack the Ripper song. They have Hey Man, I'm the devil and I might be your friend song. And it's produced. I tell people this, and I'm dead straight. Sonically, it's my favorite metal-oriented album, and I think one of the best that's come out since the Ronnie James Dio version of Black Sabbath, Heaven and Hell, put out an album in 2008 or 9, and probably the Black Album from Metallica, Ghost, Impera, number 2. Number 1 for the year, Leesburg, Florida. He's from there. His name is Theo Croker. He is a trumpet player. He's 37 years old. He's had several albums. He put out this one. It's called Love Quantum. It is a jazz album that incorporates vocals as well. Jill Scott appears on one of the cuts. Several very, very prominent jazz artists are throughout it. A lot of great sampling, a lot of great percussion. It's the first time I heard the term jazz is dead, which is on my t-shirt, which is really a play on the many of the younger culture of jazz musicians are taking to claim back the music from that really was culturally appropriated back in the 50s and 60s. It's a very interesting thing. But Theo Croker, I just fell in love with this because it's so many different musical styles, from jazz, but not smooth jazz, it's all over the board. And this young culture of artists, it's really opened the door for me to see how they pay homage to the classics like the Coltrane's and the Miles Davis, but really to see that hip hop would be nothing without jazz, and to see those connections. And those types of records are really what helped me go find some of the older classic hip hop that I totally missed. And in a year where I was really lost, it really helped me find a lot of things that were new to me. So that's my top 10. I know it sounds a little different and it's a little all over the board, but that's all I got, and I appreciate it.
Well, Scott, I'm just so thrilled to go and check some of that stuff out that I've never even heard of. And now, if anybody thought that this was just a Gen X, dad rock mind meld, we now have a millennial out of Nashville, and we've got our first ever Gen Z participant in the end of the year best of, and he's an aspiring journalist and music critic right out of Cookeville, Tennessee. So we've got Amy Rock up next. Go ahead, Amy, you're on.
Classic. Always forget to turn off mute. Hey, y'all. It's so good to be here and share my top 10 with you. I actually had a weird music year too. I wasn't an album person this year. This is a year that I didn't feel like a music journalist. I really spent a lot of time just going to shows with friends, really prioritizing just the experience of going to festivals and seeing bands that my friends want to see. And yeah, it was a really good year, but I didn't like sit down and like dig my teeth into a bunch of albums. So it was really hard to come up with a list of 10 albums. So I didn't. And it's okay because I have a gimmick. Since it's 2022, I got 5 top 2 lists. You love that. Okay. So my first top 2 list is some new albums from folks that I am just personally friends with. So I really want to recommend Sophie and the Broken Things. It's my friend Sophie Galt. She's originally from Northern Virginia, but she's lived in Nashville for 10 years. I met her back when we were both new to the city. And I think what they say about Nashville being a 10-year town is true because she finally has out this full LP. It's incredible. She has kind of this 70s folk country sound. Like she says, Lucinda Williams is one of her influences. Her album's called Delusions of Grandeur, and her group's called Sophie and the Broken Things. I highly recommend that. And the other album I'm going to shout out is Microcosmos by Lou Turner. This album was actually on N Power's list, and Lou Turner is actually my roommate's friend, I think, from work. And we got to go see that album release show at the Third Man Blue Room, which was a really cool experience. And Lou Turner has just a very unique kind of folksy sound, and it's really cool. My second top 2 list is just bands that I got super obsessed with this year. The first one is Gang of Youths. This was a Shaky Knees lineup discovery for me. I saw them on that lineup and was like, what's their thing? You know, I heard one song in the lineup mix and I'm like, ooh, I like this. So I dug into their music. Their new album from 2022 is called Angel in Real Time. It touches on the lead singer's life story and his relationship with his father who passed away and dealing with that grief. And just sonically, I find their music super interesting. They're from Australia and they've been going for a long time, but I feel like just recently they've been breaking out in the American market. And seeing that Shaky was super cool because one of their one of their top songs, the singer comes out with his microphone and like jumps over the barrier and like walks right past me. And that's like the best thing to happen at a concert. Favorite thing. So Gang of Youths, Angel in Real Time, one of my favorite obsessions this year. My other obsession was the band called Rufus Du Sol. They're an electronic band also from Australia. I kind of have an Australian thing this year. I don't know what to tell you. So Rufus Du Sol, I might have mentioned them last year when I was talking about all the great videos of DJs out in cool places where they bring out the drones and fly around a beautiful place, and also the DJ is hanging out there. So they did one that was out in Joshua Tree and they had really cool lights, and I was obsessed with that. And their album Surrender actually came out in 2021, so it's kind of a fudge for putting it on my 2022 list. But I listened to them a lot last winter, so they make it to my top 2 list of bands I was obsessed with this year. All right. My next top 2 list was my favorite electronic albums. I spend a lot of time listening to house and trance music. That's probably like my ultimate background music, stuff by Above and Beyond and all their label mates called Injuna Beats. I actually went to the music festival they host out in the Gorge Amphitheater in Washington State, which is like the coolest venue in the whole world, and some of my favorite music, just great vibes. It just being there feels like a giant hug. And also some of my favorite people, including my brother, got to join me and camp out there. And wow, I'm not even going to talk about one of those artists. That was just a highlight of my year. Related to Anjuna Beats label is the artist Cubicolor, which is on my list here. Their album Sometime Not Now came out, I think, just last month, and I've been playing that nonstop. They're British and Dutch, three-piece, and their sound is kind of part indie rock, part electronic. It really isn't dancey, but it isn't just rock. It's very much like electronic generated, but it creates just this very textural, warm feeling that I really get lost in, that I love a lot. So that's Cubicolor. I really like their album from a couple years ago, but this one, Sometime Not Now, is even better. The other electronic album on my top 2 list here is Alice in Wonderland. She's totally different, also Australian. It's very dancey, kind of poppy, lyric driven. She talks about mental health a lot, which is cool because it's just really uplifting. She does a podcast called Radio Wonderland, where she plays all her new songs and then a bunch of electronic, kind of super dancey, heavy stuff. That's great. I turn on that when I'm like going for a run or whatever. And this album called Loner that came out this year was all the songs she had been releasing through the last year that I was really liking on her podcast. But really uplifting. Unlike a lot of DJs, she like records her own vocals and does all the production. And I really admire a female DJ like really hitting it hard and going big. I had an opportunity to go see her in concert this year and I didn't get to, so that's super high on my list, but at least I have this great album to enjoy called Loner. That's Alice in Wonderland. All right. My next list is my favorite heavy album. I don't know. Fontaines DC. A majority of people on this show tonight are big fans. Skintifia this year was a great new album. I think I discovered them because we talked about them in last year, maybe the year before, and really dug it. I actually got to see them in concert this year, and it was kind of a surprise because I had tickets for the same night to go see Lil Nas X, and I was super stoked. My best friend came in from out of town to go see it, and then last minute, Lil Nas X had to postpone his show, and my best friend was already in town, so I'm like, well, let's go see Fontaines DC. We're gonna like that. So it was like a great consolation prize. I loved it. They were awesome. I got to see Lil Nas X the next day, and that was, if I was doing a top 10 list of shows I saw this year, that's probably in the top 5. Incredible production, and Lil Nas X is just beautiful and awesome. I talked about him last year, so you know my love there. So Fontaines, we love them. My other favorite heavy album is by Demon Hunter. They're a Christian metal band, originally based in Seattle. Their new album is called Exile. It's their 12th studio album. They've been going at it for 20 years. They sound as awesome as ever. I got to see them in concert, and the vocalists are still as good as ever. And they're genuinely nice guys. I got to admit my bias. My brother is actually their touring merch guy. And so I've gotten to visit with the guys several times through the past 10 years since my brother has that gig. And I got to drop in on their rehearsal space because they start their tour out of Nashville. Half of them live here now. And they're just like genuinely great guys. I love them. So I got to shout out their album called Exile. That's Demon Hunter. We love them. All right. Here's my last list, kind of the number 1 list, since we're kind of an indie rock group here. These are my favorite indie albums of 2022. My top 2, my 2est top 2. And we're going to go with Barty's Strange, Farm to Table. I think last year I was hyping him up because he had the song Mustang that was super cool. And I got to see him at Shaky Knees. And man, this album is so cool. Bertie Strange just transcends all genre. Like, he blends a lot of hip hop, he even raps a little bit, but combines it with a lot of like indie and even like hardcore screamo post-punk sound. And while it sounds all over the place, it really like comes together. It's really tight, and it's just super cool. I highly recommend Bartees Strange, Farm to Table. And my number one is going to be Phoenix, their album Alpha Zulu that came out this year. I've been a longtime fan of them ever since Wolfgang Amadeus Phoenix back in like, what, 2010, 2009? But they're awesome. If you don't know, they're a French indie pop band. They're just super fun. They were my only Ryman show this year. I love going to see shows at the Ryman Amphitheater in Nashville. And Phoenix was just like the best band to see there because their visual production was super cool. It had like big arches that were all video screens with different colorful things. And just the energy there was great. And Phoenix really rocks. Their new songs are really fun, even more poppy and crazy. And I really love it. I could keep listening to that on repeat for quite a while. So that is my 5 top 2 lists.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So this is so fun, and he didn't log off or quit, and I'm sure he hates the fact that he lives in the town where his dad works and even goes to the college that his dad works at. But he's probably had professors coming up to him all semester, pinching his cheeks, being like, I remember when you was in Little Shorts. And he writes for the school newspaper. I don't know where your show is on WTTU. I hope it's coming soon. Everybody, my dear, dear friend. And he hosted Teacher on the Radio earlier this year with his dad. It was an all vinyl show.
So fun. So much fun.
Incredible. Everybody, welcome Gus Creeder.
Hello. Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. This is so fun. I actually made a little presentation so I can just try this out. Let's see.
There's a button at the bottom that says present.
Yes. Oh, it's processing. Well, perfect. Okay.
No, there it is. I see it. It's there.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm want to thank you, Mr. Andrew, for inviting me. This is super fun. And something that's, so exciting. I was really looking forward to doing this because I had a feeling that I would bring a little bit of a different perspective, some different music, that, maybe I can give some recommendations because I love doing that. And none of the albums that I picked have been talked about yet, so I'm super excited to get into it. We are going to start off at number 10 with The Weeknd on FM. The Weeknd, Abel Tesfaye, Canada's very own, one of the biggest artists in the world, undoubtedly. This album released first week of the year, I believe January 7th is when it came out. And it really started the year off with a bang. It was my first album of the year. I think it's incredible. It's conceptual FM-inspired album, Dawn FM, the title, with appearances from Tyler, the Creator, and Lil Wayne as the features, and then Jim Carrey also doing some commentary throughout, like he's your DJ, he's your teacher on the radio while listening to Dawn FM. And I love it. It's really great. R&B hits, 80s inspired from beginning to end, and he does it better than anyone else right now, personally, to me. Okay, I will say as well, I have one tie because I just have so many albums I love to talk about, and they are similar, but we'll get to that. Number 9, Breakins, Hypochondriac. This one just came out a couple of weeks ago, but it has really stayed in my rotation the whole time. Breakins is an artist that I've been familiar with a while. He came from the underground hyperpop scene that I've been such a big fan of for a few years, and he always stood out as the one who is the most mainstream ready. It's, in my opinion, the glitch pop album of the year. He has just a really strong voice, A lot of lyrics focused on mental health. He'd been making the album for the last 3 years, so I can imagine that we've all gone through some stuff the last 3 years, and he definitely puts it together into a really cohesive and consistently exciting album from beginning to end. All of the singles were really great, so I knew I was going to love the album going into it, and he surpassed my expectations. It's my favorite thing that he's released so far. Yeah, definitely check it out. It's one of my favorite pop albums of the year, no doubt. All right, number 8, we have a tie. The tie is between two of the best coke rappers, period, in the genre of hip hop. First off, West Side Gun. He is a member of the hip hop collective Griselda, which has been prolific over the past half decade, releasing so many albums every year alongside other members, Benny the Butcher, former member Conway the Machine, and then some new members like Stove God Cooks and Rome Streets. Just, they are all so incredible. West Side Gun is credited as being one of hip hop's best curators. He takes classic, incredible rappers, puts them over these grimy beats from the likes of Alchemist and the RZA of Wu-Tang fame, and he's just incredible. He has a super distinct tone, high pitch, and it just goes along. It makes the content, the druggy and street content so much more interesting because it's from a tone that you've really never heard before. And following that up with an incredible coke rapper with a very well-known tone is Pusha T. It's Almost Dry. Pusha T is first off known for his involvement with his brother in the rap group Clips in the back in the 90s and early 2000s. Ridin' was a massive song from them, and as time has gone on, he has continued to drop incredible record after incredible record. 2018's Daytona was easily one of the best albums of the year, concise, 7 tracks, and here on It's Almost Dry, the production is split in half between Pharrell and a Chicago-born or Chicago-raised rapper that we're not going to talk about right now. It's really incredible. No matter how you feel about Kanye, and I know how I feel about Kanye, his production on the album is really great. It's all kinds of stuff with that we don't need to get into. But his rapping is as on point as ever. He's just killing it. Every year he drops more music that's just better and better, and I love it. I love all the features. It's so fun. And on to number 7. We have Big Thief, Dragon New War Mountain, I Believe in You. One of the most beautiful sonic experiences of the year. It is long, but you listen through the first 5 tracks and you know what you're in for, and it is beautiful. And just it's such an easy album to sit down, listen to start to finish, despite its length. And it has, a couple of the best songs of the year easily. And yeah, just incredible. Following a long string of great releases from them. I think I found them back in 2018, and I've stuck around kind of as a casual fan, and this year, this album really, really stuck with me. Now on to number 6. We have Blade and Echo 2K. Now, Blade and Echo 2K are 2 artists from Sweden. They are in the rap collective Drain Gang, known for cloud rap, and as of late, more straightforward pop or experimental pop. And they are their chemistry has always been around. They've been making music together for well over a decade now, since they were kids. And this album is just another concise, consistent, and fun album. It's very ethereal throughout, and Blade's boyish vocals along with Echo's just much more put together, straightforward, and beautiful voice is a great combination. I really love it. Production from White Armor and Mechatalk are it's every beat is great. I love this album. It came out near the beginning of the year, and it's been on repeat ever since. Number 5, we have one of the newest albums on my list, and an unexpected one for sure. Quadeca, I Didn't Mean to Haunt You, is the newest album from a YouTuber. He's been making content since he was a kid playing FIFA online, and has always had, an affinity for rap music. And as time has gone on, he's gone from like your basic sort of Eminem-inspired young white boy rapper spitting quick bars to an artist who released an album that has influence from shoegaze and emo, along with hip hop and indie, and it is incredible. Folktronica is also a term that I've seen used to describe it that I think makes a lot of sense. A conceptual record from the perspective of a deceased Quadeca, who is, so, I mean, in a way, one of my, maybe the best posthumous album of the year. But he just kills it. The production is wide and vast, and everything carries so much weight. Even his voice, his singing has improved to points that I didn't see coming, for sure. I've been a fan from the sidelines of him for a while, but I've seen more content from him throughout this year and could tell that he was really doing something great. So when he released the single Born Yesterday, as well as Tell Me a Joke, I was like, oh man, this guy is really coming for a position that I didn't expect from him. And then he also came out with this album has a short film attached to it that just goes through all the music, and it really adds to the experience. It's cold, it's beautiful, and I love it. Now on to number 4, if I'm correct, one of my favorite rock albums of the year, Black Midi, Hellfire. The rock in the UK has just been stepping it up this year. I'll say that much. I was lucky enough to see Black Midi at the Orange Peel a few months ago, and they are just so incredible. The music is chaos, but it's very organized chaos. It's fun, and I've seen them describe it as such. Just them making fun music. The lead singer Georgie has a very spoken word like tone. When he's not singing, he's screaming, and it's awesome. They're just killer band, killer album. They've had 3 incredible albums in the last few years, and I am giving them my big thumbs up. All right, number 3 is from JID, Atlanta rapper. This is a Forever Story. It is his, I believe, 2nd studio album, if the Forever Story is a mixtape, or if the for Never Story is a mixtape, but if not, 3rd studio album. It's incredible. He has one of the best flows and like in hip hop period. The production is really great. The storytelling is unbelievable. Songs like Radar, Dance Now, Crack Sandwich, and then the closer. The closer is just so good. He really brings something to the table that most aren't. He's a little older than your regular mainstream rapper at the moment, and it shows in his maturity throughout his lyricism on the whole record. And he really just he brings to the table what so many other mainstream rappers try, except with one of the most consistent products of the year. It's also not too long, pretty trim, and I adore it. I think it's incredible. Number 2 is one that I'm surprised wasn't mentioned. It's like a music critic's wet dream this year, from another incredible rock band out of the UK. We have Black Country New Road, Ants from Up There. It is absolutely amazing. Like, if you've heard the album, you know how incredible it is, and or just orchestral overload and incredible lyrics from Isaac Wood, who announced his departure from the band right before this album came out. So when I first listened to it, I hadn't listened to their debut, and I just kind of went into it blind, and it blew my mind. I also saw them on tour with Black Midi, and they were unbelievable. Performed all new material, considering the departure of the lead vocalist Isaac, and yeah, it's amazing. Lyrically, you can the reason why Isaac left was for mental health reasons, which is very clear if you listen to the record. Throughout it, he's telling these anecdotes through metaphor in such a special way that I haven't heard from another album this year, or honestly ever. This one, it's a really special place with me. I adore it. I think it's incredible. And my number 1 album of the year, I heard mentioned earlier that there are some artists, when they release an album, it's sort of a shoe-in for album of the year. And I had no more visceral first listen to an album and continuous listens than I did with my number 1 album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers by Kendrick Lamar. It's like you're going through a therapy session from Kendrick, and it is really it's really special. The production on it has elements of jazz, as you would expect if you've listened through any other Kendrick record. There's always jazz, but the features on it, the themes are incredible. The themes of family and finding your place in the world of celebrity as someone who has been kind of deemed as a savior of hip hop. That's a theme that comes up a lot, is how to deal with being seen as a savior when you know that you're just a man. And I also was lucky enough to see him at Bridgestone over the summer, and he is just unbelievable. One of the best live performers I've ever seen. And every time he releases a new album, I know it's going to be a statement piece and the most well thought out record of that year. And that is what Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers offers to me. Now, I cheated a little bit. I added a couple of ones that I just wanted to shout out because I've been listening to them a lot recently and they've been on my mind. That's Smino, Love for Rent, Chicago rapper Smino, rapper, singer, and just amazing, so much fun. I have a Soul Glow with Diaspora Problems. It's my favorite punk rock album of the year. It's hard, it's really fun, and every scream, every throat scratching scream is just like, it's incredible. Natalia Lafourcade de Todas las Flores. She has my favorite album that I can't understand most of the words of this year. She just comes in with the most a beautiful tone, and I really adore her. I've gotten a lot more into her recently. I have a lot of friends who are a big fan of hers. So whenever this album came out, I made sure to jump right on it, and I fell in love with it. And finally, Kenny Beats, Louis. Kenny Beats is a hip hop producer who went to Berkeley, graduated from Berkeley, and has had a large social media and online presence for the past few years, working with other artists like Rico Nasty or Denzel Curry, JPEG Mafia, Key, just to name a few. And he finally released his own solo project. It is a beat tape of sorts, but if I'm going to call it a beat tape, I'm going to say it's one of the most personal and expressive beat tapes I've ever heard. I feel like I'm stepping into Kenny's childhood home, and it's really beautiful with little features from artists thrown in, whether it's just like spoken, some words from Vince Staples, or a short song dedicated to JPEG Mafia, or a chorus from Remy Wolf. Whatever it is, I like it, whoever appears, I adore it, and I think it's great. And yeah, those are just a few shout outs, but that is my top 15 records of the year. Yeah, and thanks again for inviting me. This is it's really fun getting to share all of this. And that's good for me.
All right, you guys can control your mute or unmute as you want, as you see fit. And holy crap, that was so much fun.
That was so fun. I loved it. I love it.
They don't feel the same pride that I do, but you're such a sophisticated rock critic. Are you 18 or 19?
I'm 18. I turned 19 in a month.
Yeah, that's fucking insane, dude. That's just like, you've got all of the vernacular of a rock critic down. And anyway, I feel my top 100 is a much more expansive list, but I feel so conservative and so stuck in my ways, especially when I see a list like you guys. But I'm going to suggest a format for this next section of the show where we comment on each other's lists. Okay. So I'm going to comment on Gus's list, this album, Soul Glow Diaspora Problems.
So good.
So what happened was I knew I was going to drop my my lists on Monday, or try to anyway. So I had my top 25 worked out, and I'd already recorded my teacher on the radio with my top 25. And then I was like, I think I'll do a top 50. And then I was like, no, I better do a top 75. And then when I hit around 83 albums, I'm like, no, I better just do a top 100. But I kind of cheated, and I started like inhaling these albums, like with a funnel. And so then I started cheating and going on other people's lists and Googling, like, the way I found Avi Copland was Googling best folk album. Well, I Googled best punk album of the year, and that's how I found Diaspora Problems. But oh my gosh, is that good for my soul? Just it's unfreaking believable. And there's a song towards the end of the album where they sound like the Bad Brains a little bit, and they're doing like punk reggae. Oh, it's so good. And I don't even know what they're saying, but the words I could pick out sounded really good. So, and I'll ask you a question, Gus. Did you ever hear of a woman rapper, East Coast rapper called Shay Noir, I believe?
Of course. No. Shay Noir is badass.
She's got a new
album
this year that I just listened to in the same cycle of the last couple of days called Food for Thought. Mm-hmm. That is really, 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 really something else. Okay, so it's free for all. There's no hand raising. You don't need a hall pass. This isn't high school. Just interrupt away.
I'm just glad there were 2 Christian heavy metal bands this year.
Yeah, I love that. When I saw you hold up Striper, I'm like, well, the first reaction was Striper's still a band? And the second one was like, yay, Christian rock.
I know. And I've Rick's known me a long time. I've always been into that, but at the same time, that leaves a lot of room for like Ghost. I'm like,
yeah.
How polarizing. So goodness.
So I really dig that Winchell had no less than 3 jazz albums, and also giving love to DLO3, who is just, they're like a joy radiator.
Oh man, and those live albums, like I think the one I have's from Loveland, Colorado.
That was RST.
And then they got KEXP. They're both
that was from a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and they're just both wonderful.
And they're so much fun live. It's just the music is great, but when Delvon just ribs Jimmy James, it's worth the price of admission, just because he's sitting there and he's kind of poking him, and Jimmy's kind of giving him the stink eye, and it's like kind of like an old married couple.
That's awesome. Doesn't his wife manage the group?
Yep. Shortcake Mafia.
There you go.
I wanted to bring up, I grew up in a family that is, I would say at least half of the family worships Bruce Springsteen. So I adored all of the Springsteen love.
Nice.
And I did really love, I really thought that new album was great. It's, if I want covers from one guy, who better than the boss?
You know what? I have this thing where I'm like, Bruce has got a new record. It's going to be #1. Am I just being like a corrupt politician here?
Yeah, that's how I was with Kendrick. It's like I've been waiting for this for so long, and I love it.
Yeah,
and it has
Scott,
to be
the
my
answer is
#1.
yes. that is a hard yes.
There's only been one Springsteen record that I regret automatically putting at #1, and that's Working on a Dream, because it just was my least favorite. There were good moments, but there was just if I could turn back time, as much as it would hurt me, I would have been like, no, Bruce, you're sitting this one out for 2009.
That man's put out some great music. Goodness. Understatement.
For real.
I had to do a double take when you said that Aha's latest was kind of akin to Western Stars. I'm like, I'm gonna have to hear that for myself.
Well, it's not akin, but that they were like, we want to make a Norwegian version of Western Stars, which is going to be polar opposite. But it really, if you look at it, the vibe really, it's cool. It's cool. It's way different. I had to, again, that's not something I would typically gravitate to. But again, you got to blow stuff up every once in a while.
This is true. This is true.
I have a follow-up from last year. I think y'all might remember. I was like, what's the deal with Crunbin? And I saw them at Shaky Knees. I get it. It was awesome.
Yeah, I was there too. And I did the stupid thing of forgetting I was going to see them at Shaky Knees and I got tickets to see them in Charlotte 2 days later. I think I went to like 5 shows that week, and that like the month of May, I damn near killed myself because I got COVID in June because I went to like because the beginning of May was the end of Shaky, and then I went to like 7 more shows. So I declared a show cleanse for the month of July.
That was March for me. I think I went to 3 concerts in a weekend. It was like from Nashville to Atlanta to Nashville. And it was exhausting, but like time of my life. Three of my favorite concerts.
Mine was in September over a week. I think I saw 4 big headline shows, including My Morning Jacket with Andy.
Nice. Yeah, I got to go with like a whole array of friends. I saw Animal Collective at Marathon, yes, and then I went to Atlanta to see Tyler the Creator and a bunch of other artists that he was touring with that I love. Nice. And then I saw Baby Keem, who's Kendrick Lamar's cousin, who's also like one of my favorite artists right now, at Brooklyn Bowl, and it was so fun. And I touched him 1 week to the hour before he won a Grammy, so you know. Lucky charm, I'll say.
Nice.
I finally got around to listening to that Animal Collective album. It's really good.
It was really good. I dug it. I actually enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I liked the earliest stuff the most, but I went into it. I was like, okay, this is great.
I feel weird talking about it because he's recovering from a cancellation, but Ryan Adams put out 4 albums this year, and I went to see him last week, and it was unbelievable. I mean, he's so fucked up, but like he's first of all, as far as I can gauge it, it's a little bit more ambiguous as to what they actually did vis-a-vis the New York Times article, and one of the main sources being his ex-wife and all that. But anyway, he's very transparent about his own problems, and the show was unlike anything I'd ever seen. But I was mad because he's been playing like 40 songs in some shows, 35 in other shows. We only got 20. I went to see him in Indianapolis last Thursday, and I only saw he only played 27 songs, but he's playing on a 3-hour show. So I went from Ryan Adams to Adeem the artist in Nashville on Friday, and then last night or 2 nights ago, Rick and I saw Bonnie Light Horseman. So we've been doing the whole 3 or 4 shows a week thing too, haven't we, Rick?
Yeah. I think this over the same period, I saw four shows over 6 days. I do not have the youth or the stamina that Gus probably has for that. But yeah, I went from Wet Leg at Brooklyn Bowl to
Jealous.
To Maren Morris at Bridgestone, saw a friend at the old Koinonia bookstore on Monday, and then Bonnie Light Horseman on Tuesday. It was just a great week. Amy, I've got to spend some more time with that Barty Strange album. That was on my list. He was on my list in 2020.
Yeah.
But are you going to the show?
Yep, looking forward to it.
Okay, well, then there may be a live interaction. I got tickets to
crossover episode.
IRL.
Yay!
I would say, to hop back to 4 albums in 1 year. Speaking of an artist that dropped a lot of albums in 1 year that I didn't get to put on my list that I love, I at Bonnaroo this year got to see King Gizzard, who dropped, I think, 4 albums this year. Yeah. Oh man, I'm loving King Gizzard. And I wanted to say as well, I've been so into the Wet Leg album, and I got my dad to listen to it as well, and it's just like, I love it. It's so good. It's so fun.
Yeah.
So fun.
The thing is, did he hire somebody to butter your muffin?
Excuse me.
What?
Pardon?
I was really holding out and hoping that we get a surprise and Robert Smith would release the Cure album this year, and it's just not happening.
I heard it was going to be next year.
Yeah, but they've been touring all over the place, and I was hoping for that. It just didn't happen. I'm looking forward to see what that's all about.
Right.
It's like in my head, I'm hoping that it's like Disintegration.
Oh, that would be so good. I'll tell you what, after seeing Margot Price the other night, I am looking forward to her next album being on my top 10. The new stuff is that good.
Where did you get to see Margot Price, Scott?
Neighborhood Theater in Charlotte.
Oh,
It was
wow.
actually my third time seeing her, and she's one of those people that like I'm gonna want to see her every time. There's certain people that I see them and I know, like Jenny Lewis. Anytime I see her, she's just going to just delight me to my core. I'm always going to want to see Bruce. Low Cut Connie, hands down, show of the year back in February. My goodness, they kicked my ass like I owed them money.
Scott, have you read Margot's book?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet. But shameless plug. I have a good friend who just published a novel, and my friend is now a musician, but the novel was inspired by a musician. It's called None of This Would Have Happened If Prince Were Alive.
Wow. Nice.
But I love reading. My attention span has been destroyed, so I have to force myself to sit down and like, I'm going to read this. I'm going to read this.
That's it. Goodness, man. Hey, Big Thief is coming on a Saturday night in February to Birmingham. Wow. Amy Ray's playing here too. I'm sure these are all coming to Nashville too. But there's
I've been on the lookout for Big Thief. I've heard that the shows are incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, my daughter's really big on them, and it's a Saturday, and in a place called Iron City, which is really good. It's a great acoustic. It's like Saturn. Saturn's a really good audio, but it's small. Iron City, it's a little bigger, and it's really nice.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my concert lineup going because I have two. I am going to see Bruce with my dad in February.
Where are you going to see him?
We are going to Atlanta.
Oh, nice.
It'll be great.
The Greensboro show.
Nice. Yeah, it is it's at State Farm. It's at State Farm.
Nice.
And then I'm going to see JID and Smino. They're touring together in Nashville in March, which is going to be so much fun. I'm like going with all my friends. But yeah, when I have more money, the cities will not see it coming. They'll have no idea why I'm there.
Yeah, this past year between everything coming back to life and being blessed with a job that imbues me with resources, I went to too many shows. I think I've got a problem.
No such thing.
Oh man. So this is really weird, but Gus and I got to talk about therapy when he was over at my house. We had this very brief my counselor said to me in counseling, go to all the concerts. It's a prescription.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And he's got letters after his name that means he's allowed to tell me that, and I'm allowed to say, yes, I will. Yes, I'm happy to abide by that prescription.
Hey, if you find something that makes you happy that you can do it. And as long as it's, healthy and legal.
Yeah.
Are any of you familiar with the Big Ears Festival in Knoxville?
Yes.
I've always wanted to go.
That's really something that's sticking out to me and I've been told it's really, really cool.
Is there a lineup for this year yet?
Yeah, I just pulled it up, and it's like 90% of stuff that you don't know. A lot of jazz, a lot of world.
Cool.
Maeve Gilchrist, Bela Fleck, Mark Ribot, Rouge Aftab. I don't know who that is.
Mark Ribot would be somebody I'd want to see.
Yeah, Los Cubanos.
You'd fall in love with the Rouge Aftab. That's like Pitchfork music that I found. I saw a review on Pitchfork and I listened to it last year, the record from last year. So good, so beautiful.
Well, we're really looking at that, and goodness, it's just.
Oh my God, it's Scott. I just pulled it up. That lineup, you guys.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of the thing with Big Ears is I think it's in different clubs, and I think it's like a wristband that lets you into all the clubs. But I think there's a lot of head. It's the same people that run Bonnaroo run this one, and so there's going to be a lot of head to head.
Oh
So
yeah, Low, Eve Toomer, Sons of Kemet. That's a great
Oh no, not Low. Oh, that broke my heart when Mimi.
I know, yeah.
I so badly wanted to see Low.
This looks like an incredible festival, but that's one thing to keep in mind if you do go that there's going to be head-to-heads. They're going to be like stuff scheduled at the same time.
Yeah.
That's how they can put together lineups of this ridiculousness. Because
that gives me anxiety.
The mountain goats, you guys. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Lucius, Los Lobos.
Oh, Los Lobos is the bomb.
Ricky Lee Jones.
Yes.
Iron and Wine. I'm just saying the ones that I know. There's most of these are ones that I don't know. They're probably really good too. Steve Gunn is going to be there.
Oh,
Steve Gunn.
Steve Gunn's awesome.
Maybe we should. Jake Fussell, Jake Zierzi's Fussell. We should all just meet up there.
Yep.
Yes. Sierra Farrell.
Oh, nice.
Calexico.
Ooh.
Isn't Sierra Farrell what you told me about, Rick?
Coming to the Saturn. That's right.
Bonnie Light Horseman, Andrew Bird, Devondra Bonhart,
Tank and the Bangas.
Yeah,
I like them.
Adia Victoria.
Adia Victoria is so good.
She is. I saw her at Exit-In a couple weeks ago.
I saw her opening for Jason Isbell, and she kind of sort of blew Jason off the stage.
Yeah. Christian McBride's a jazz guy. Yep. Just wild.
Oh, he's an awesome storyteller.
Yeah. Sun Ra Orchestra. That's cool.
All right. I'm sold. It's on my calendar now.
I know. It just, that's kind of where my head is. And like that type of stuff. I feel like a hypocrite because it's like, I mean, Rick knows this. I'm like, I've literally, I know the program director at our radio station pretty well. And it was like, they had their Christmas show. And I said, I looked at him and I said, Gino, I'm not going, man. I'm not paying for it because it's Ticketmaster. And I know I can't do that all the time, but I just said, I'm not going. And it's like, I know it doesn't matter in the big picture of things. And we pick our politics, and I'm getting a little over that, but it's been a weird year like that. And I've been in that business, and I'm like, you people sat there out of COVID and asked me to support you and give you money online, and you didn't do jack for us. And we bought pies for your road crew, and you're not doing shit for us. So I've really struggled with that and had to get over it. And, and make some decisions. And it's like, so I'm trying to find my way back to that. And I know it's not necessarily the right path.
Yeah. Man, I hate Ticketmaster so bad.
I do. I try to buy, Avondale Brewery here did a really nice thing. It's actually going on tonight. It's something, and it's an effort. Their businesses, and I get it. I get the economics of it. But tonight they had a pre-sale party, and there's a bunch of shows going on sale. I can't think of the band, but there's several larger shows going on sale. So they opened the bar tonight and are selling tickets. You could go there and buy your tickets with no fees.
I love that. That's so good.
It's a pre-sale party, and
more that. Yes.
Yeah, excellent.
I wrote a note and said, that's appreciated. And Mount Joy is one of the shows, and several other known artists. And it's like, man, at least it's an effort. And I think that says a lot. And it's like, hey, even if people would just say, hey, we know this is a burden on you. We know it, and we appreciate you. Jason Isbell's always been pretty good in his concerts and with Amanda Shires. If you look at the theaters and stuff they play, you can see they try to navigate that somewhat.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that they're just like all of us. We're trying to make money, but it's like, and they don't control a lot of that. It's not their fault, but it's nice to see when some effort's made and at least they mention it and say, hey, thanks for sticking with us for 50 years and still paying the dough. Thank you for that therapy session.
No, it's good stuff. Andrew, did you see where American Aquarium was?
Andrew's just giving me. It's Ghost. It's Ghost. Ghost caused that.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I think we're powerless over this, and I think and we want the product they're selling more than they want to be reasonable about how they do business.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
We're all very powerless over our love for this music, and the shows are so good, even some of those big shows.
I will say this. I'm like, Ticketmaster sucks. Live Nation sucks. And I have accepted that. And I've accepted that tickets like for the rare arena show I go to are going to be expensive. But this dynamic pricing thing is bullshit.
It's not a fucking Uber in Manhattan at 5:00 on Friday,
And what I do
and Uber shouldn't do that either. But those people are really, I mean, that's different. I don't know. I'm sorry.
I do dynamic pricing for a living. I mean, I laughed my ass off the day that term came out because Live Nation originally was owned by Clear Channel and spun off into its own company. And over the years, came back and they absorbed Ticketmaster. Dynamic pricing is a common thing across many, many realms. And I'd really love to see their software, but I just laughed my ass on it and about it. And it's hard to understand, and they handled it really poorly.
Oh yeah.
And, look, and again, I feel like a hypocrite. We bought Taylor Swift tickets, and it's just like, fuck, man. Holy shit.
Wild.
Yeah. I had to lease out organs of mine to afford Bruce tickets.
Yeah.
I got to go see Gorillaz up in Philly this year. Yeah, it was
so jealous. Oh my God.
I was already committing to spend upwards of $200, but going through Ticketmaster, it like bamboozled me. It bamboozled me out of $10 extra.
Oh yeah.
Oh wait a minute. So
Aldine.
That's all? Just $10 extra?
It was the bamboozlement that was infuriating because I was looking at one number and then it was $10 more. It was already $200, but I got to touch Damon Albarn. He came out into the pit.
It's like I knew that the Isbell tickets I got were pricey, but they were great seats, and I treated myself. And same thing with Kraftwerk. I'm like, I never seen Kraftwerk before. Didn't know if I would see him again. Had to get the Kraftwerk.
He took me to Kraftwerk. That was worth it. And it ended up being the day that stupid Supreme Court decision dropped. So Scott and I got to go march in the streets of Nashville for pro-choice. That was wild. And then we got stuck in the Johnny Cash Museum with a bunch of tourists, and it was so weird.
That's hilarious.
Well, I know we spread a lot of love for them already, but I had mentioned when I did my list that Andrew, your number one would have made my list had I bit the rules. But I can't say enough about this Adeem the Artist album. It's just incredible. It's beautiful, and the writing. It'll be interesting to see where they go from here. but it's just stunning.
It's rare to see a country album obviously that covers those themes, but that's also getting as much buzz as it is.
Yeah.
So I feel like they'll be around for a while, and I listened to it for the first time last night off of a recommendation, and I was like, oh yeah, this is my favorite country album of the year, no doubt. Like every year, there's one country album that is my clear country album of the year. Like last year, it was Chris Stapleton.
Mm-hmm.
This year,
Chris, Gus, who told you about Adeem the Artist?
I saw it on Twitter.
Okay.
One of my friends, like, that I just literally know through Twitter, sent it to me, and I was like, okay, this is really cool, because they know that I live in the South.
That's so fantastic.
It's really great.
Can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, that's on the list.
Oh, Scott, you're gonna love it so much. Scott Greenberg, it's right up your alley. Okay, we've been on this device for 2 hours. So we'll do this time next year. The group chat stays live all year long. I tried to make a Facebook group, but it was just easier to get on the group chat. So just get on that same group chat thread.
I'm still going to lobby that we do this once a month, whether it's a live stream or just amongst us. But
or even quarterly.
I put it on you to set up the quarterly, Scott. So you have to set it up. You have to set it up.
Right.
Set it up.
Don't tempt me with a good time.
But Gus, what's the story? Are you on WTTU next semester?
I am not sure. Okay. So I'll be the copy editor next semester
for the
Tennessee Tech Oracle.
Okay.
So there's a good chance that that's where most of my time that's not in the classroom will go. But I know it was either next semester or next fall. I will be involved at the radio station.
You better.
I will. I promise.
It was the highlight of my TTU career for sure.
I mean, I'm already over in the communications area all the time, so it won't be too much of a migration.
Well, once you have your show, please let me know about it and take some tips on like, if you pre-record it, you can put it on the internet for your friends who don't live in Cookeville, and it'll also sound better. Like Rick got on my SoundCloud the other day and drove around with SoundCloud on his phone through his Bluetooth in his car stereo, and it was just like a real radio show. But he was in Nashville and not in Cookeville, and But we do live stream also to the whole world. So anyway, and you guys on my SoundCloud, there's a million archive shows you can go listen to on demand. Scott has an amazing website with all of his shows. Scott, what's that website called again? That's your show.
That's nohonestmancanpay.com.
What's the name of that webcaster who puts you up there though? What's his
NRM Streamcast?
NRM Streamcast.
So what's important for you to know is the podcast is everywhere except Spotify. And we just dropped the top 10 episode 5 minutes before we went on the air.
Wow.
So. Nice.
Sweet. We'll check it out.
All right, everybody. The studio is going to stay open for a second, but I'm going to end the broadcast. And all of this was out there on the internet, so it's all evidence against us to be in whatever. I love you guys.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you.